The fourth scanner shattered in Dr. Solara's trembling tentacles, its crystalline display fracturing into 1,000 glittering shards before disintegrating into dust. The other xenobiologists backed away, their various respiratory apparatuses wheezing and clicking in distress. "That's the fourth one this hour," Dr. Mivarak whispered, his voice modulator barely audible over the persistent alarm. No biological entity should be able to produce these readings. At the center of the pristine white laboratory, separated by a shimmering quarantine field, sat Sarah Chen, the human diplomatic attaché. She smiled awkwardly, her pale skin flushing pink. Another biological anomaly that fascinated and disturbed the Confederation scientists in equal measure. "Is everything all right?" Sarah asked, seemingly oblivious to the chaos her mere presence was causing. "I've been sitting here for 3 hours now." Dr. Solara's scales rippled in agitation, shifting from their normal iridescent blue to a troubled violet. In 17 cycles as the Confederation's leading xenobiologist, she had catalogued over 3,000 sentient species. None had ever broken her equipment through passive scanning alone. "Just routine calibration issues," Solara lied, her translator struggling to maintain a calm tone. "Your biology is unique, the understatement of the millennium." The human's cellular structure was violating at least 7 established biological principles. Their immune system alone was behaving in ways that should be impossible, attacking, adapting, and establishing memories of threats without external medical intervention. "Chief Scientist, we need to discuss the preliminary findings," her assistant whispered urgently. "The Confederation High Council is demanding updates." Solara nodded, her neck frill extending with stress. "Ms. Chen, would you mind a brief rest period? Our equipment needs recalibration." "Sure thing," Sarah replied, stretching casually. "Actually, I could use a break myself. I'm just getting over a nasty cold from last week and still feel a bit run down." The laboratory fell silent. Even the alarms seemed to pause. "You were ill?" Solara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Recently?" "Just a viral infection." Sarah shrugged. "Nothing serious. Some rest, fluids, and I kicked it in about 4 days." The statement triggered immediate pandemonium. Emergency protocols activated automatically, sealing the laboratory with additional quarantine fields. Decontamination mist filled the outer chamber as researchers fled to safety. Only Solara remained, staring at the human with a mixture of scientific fascination and horror. "You self-resolved a viral infection, without medical intervention, in 4 days." Each question emerged higher pitched than the last. Sarah's expression shifted from confusion to concern. Yes. That's normal for humans. Is that not normal for you?" Solara's tertiary heart nearly stopped. In Confederation space, viral infections were medical emergencies requiring immediate specialized treatment. No known species could fight off viruses independently. It was biologically impossible. "Please remain calm," Solara managed, backing toward the door. "Everything is under control." Nothing was under control. If humans could naturally defeat viruses, entities that had shaped galactic medical science for millennia, what other biological impossibilities might they be capable of? The laboratory doors sealed behind Solara as she entered the secure communication chamber. The massive view screen activated, revealing the 7 members of the Confederation High Council, their diverse physiologies all displaying signs of acute distress. "Chief Scientist, your preliminary report has caused considerable alarm," the council chair began, compound eyes blinking rapidly. "Are you certain of your findings?" Solara glanced through the observation window where Sarah sat calmly reading something on her primitive data device, seemingly unaware that she had just appended the fundamental understanding of biological science throughout the galaxy. "Council members," Solara replied, her scales now a deep purple of scientific excitement. "I've only begun to analyze human biology, and already I can tell you with certainty, these beings make absolutely no sense. Their biology violates everything we thought we knew. On the secure monitor beside her, Sarah's biological readings continued to fluctuate in impossible patterns as the human's immune system casually performed miracles that the most advanced Confederation medical technology could barely achieve. "And I believe," Silara added, her voice dropping to a whisper, "this is just the beginning of what we're going to discover." Dr. Vrin's translucent outer membrane pulsed visibly as he watched the humans through the observation window. Inside his gaseous body, his digestive organs churned with scientific anxiety. As the Confederation's leading nutrition specialist, he had spent 3 centuries categorizing the dietary needs of sentient species. In all that time, he had never encountered anything like humans. "They're doing it again," he whispered to Silara, his 4 eyes blinking asynchronously in distress. "The same food plate contains both plant and animal matter, and they're consuming them simultaneously." On the other side of the one-way quantum blast, the human delegation sat around a dining table, blissfully unaware they were being observed. Ambassador Chen speared a piece of grilled animal protein with his fork, then casually added a green vegetable before placing both in his mouth at once. Vrin's body clouded with horror. In 97% of species, that combination would trigger immediate toxic shock. Silara's scales rippled with scientific fascination. And yet their digestive system processes both without distress. The enzymatic adaptability alone is unprecedented. The diplomatic dinner had been Silara's idea, a controlled environment to observe human dietary habits. What they were witnessing defied explanation. Humans weren't simply omnivores. They were biochemical marvels. "Gods of the void," Vrin gasped suddenly, pressing closer to the glass. "The female is consuming capsaicin, deliberately." Indeed, Sarah Chen was liberally sprinkling red flakes onto her food, flakes that Vrin's instruments confirmed contained capsaicin, a molecular compound used as a weapon by 17 different species across the galaxy. "Emergency Protocol Omega," Vrin shouted into his communicator. "The humans are being poisoned." Before Silara could intervene, containment fields materialized around the dining room. Automated medical drones descended from ceiling compartments, laser scalpels, and emergency detoxifiers deployed. "Wait." Silara tried to override the system, but it was too late. Inside the dining room, the humans looked up in confusion as the air filled with the high-pitched whine of medical equipment. Ambassador Chen stood protectively, placing himself between the drones and his team. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded as a scanner swept over their food. Silara and Vrin rushed into the room, bypassing security protocols. "Stop the intervention," Silara commanded, her voice pitched high with urgency. "There's been a misunderstanding." The drones paused, hovering uncertainly. "Your female was consuming capsaicin," Vrin explained, body swirling with agitation. "A known neurotoxin." Sarah blinked, then laughed. "You mean the chili flakes? I like spicy food." "Spicy." Vrin's translator failed momentarily. "You consume neurotoxins for pleasure." "Well, yeah," Sarah replied, completely unperturbed. "Most humans enjoy some heat in their food. It releases endorphins." Silence fell across the room. Vrin's body had gone nearly transparent with shock, his internal organs visibly contracting in disbelief. Ambassador Chen, sensing the tension, reached into his jacket. Perhaps this would be a good time to share a cultural gift from Earth. He produced a small, elegantly wrapped package. Chocolate, a traditional human delicacy. Silara's instruments immediately detected the theobromine content. On 42 Confederation worlds, theobromine compounds were classified as industrial-grade pesticides. "And this," Chen continued, producing a crystalline decanter containing amber liquid, "is single malt whiskey, aged 20 years. The scanner in Vrin's appendage shrieked in alarm. "Ethanol, at concentrations exceeding 60 parts per thousand." Chen smiled politely. "Would you care to join us in a drink? It's customary to toast new friendships." The Confederation scientists watched in horror as Chen poured the ethanol poison into small glasses, then casually consumed it, followed by a piece of the theobromine-laden chocolate. "Remarkable," Silera whispered, recording every detail. "Their digestive and nervous systems process substances that would kill most species. But why would evolution favor such adaptations?" In the adjacent observation room, the surveillance feed was being watched with intense interest. Fleet Commander Zrix's exoskeleton clicked as he leaned toward his security chief. "A species that consumes poisons as pleasure," he chittered softly. "That can digest both flora and fauna indiscriminately." "Sir?" his subordinate questioned. Zrix's compound eyes reflected the image of the humans contentedly consuming their biochemical nightmare of a meal. "Prepare a full threat assessment," he ordered quietly. "Any species that drinks poison for enjoyment cannot be reasoned with through conventional means." "This is a completely voluntary demonstration," General Kithar announced, his exoskeleton gleaming under the biodome's artificial sunlight. "No participant is required to continue beyond their physiological limits." Dr. Xilara nodded approvingly from the observation deck as she calibrated her monitoring equipment. Below, in the sprawling artificial terrain that simulated Earth's varied environments, 3 of the Confederation's elite soldiers stood alongside a single human, Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez, a mid-ranking officer from Earth's Defense Forces. "The purpose," Cathar continued, mandibles clicking with military precision, "is to establish comparative baseline endurance metrics." From the diplomatic observation box, Ambassador Chen leaned toward Sarah. "Did you brief Lieutenant Rodriguez on what to expect?" Sarah nodded. "She understands the parameters. Normal jogging pace, indefinite duration." Chen frowned. "Did you explain that their elite soldiers are specifically evolved for combat efficiency?" Before Sarah could answer, Cathar activated the commencement signal. The 4 participants began moving along the marked trail at what humans would consider a moderate jogging pace. "Initial physiological readings are within expected parameters," Silera reported to the gathered scientists and military observers. "The Dravid representative shows optimal oxygen utilization. The Meckler soldiers' cybernetic enhancements are functioning at peak efficiency. The Volturian's wing-assisted locomotion reduces gravitational resistance by 24%. "And the human?" asked Fleet Commander Zrix, who had insisted on attending after the dinner incident. Silera's scales flickered with scientific curiosity. "Lieutenant Rodriguez displays unremarkable efficiency. Oxygen consumption is high, biomechanical motion wastes considerable energy. Core temperature regulation requires constant liquid evaporation through the skin. Inefficient design." Zrix chittered dismissively. 2 hours passed. The artificial sun reached its zenith, heating the biodome to Earth tropical conditions. The Volturian was the first to show signs of distress, its wing beats becoming erratic. "Fascinating," Silera murmured. "The human's liquid evaporation cooling mechanism, sweeting, they call it, is maintaining core temperature despite the increased ambient heat." Another hour passed. The Volturian collapsed, its cooling system overwhelmed. Medical drones extracted it from the course. "Unexpected," General Cathar admitted, his exoskeleton clicking in agitation. "The Volturian modifications should have—" "General," interrupted his adjutant, "the Meckler's cybernetic joints are overheating. System failure imminent." The observers watched in silence as the second competitor faltered, its movements becoming jerky before it signaled for extraction. Ambassador Chen smiled thinly. "Lieutenant Rodriguez hasn't even reached her second wind yet." "Second wind?" Silera questioned, tentacles hovering over her instruments in confusion. "A human phenomenon," Chen explained. "After initial fatigue, a secondary energy reserve activates. Hour 5. Only the Dravid soldier and the human remained. The Dravid moved with precision, every motion calculated for maximum efficiency. Beside it, the human looked messy, arms swinging, sweat pouring, breathing heavy. "The Dravid's glucose reserves are depleting," Silera reported. Muscle tension indicators suggest imminent failure. And the human? Zrix demanded. Silera's scales pulsed with disbelief. Lieutenant Rodriguez's vital signs have stabilized. Her systems appear to have adapted to the sustained effort. As if on cue, the Dravid soldier stumbled, its perfectly evolved legs finally giving out after 5 hours of continuous exertion. Medical teams rushed to administer emergency nutrients and cooling treatments. Lieutenant Rodriguez jogged to a stop beside the fallen competitor. She was sweating profusely, her uniform darkened with moisture, but her breathing was controlled, her posture upright. She glanced up at the observation deck. Are we done? Or should I continue? General Kethar's exoskeleton cracked audibly as his grip shattered the reinforced command console. Impossible, he hissed. No species can maintain homeostasis after such prolonged exertion without cybernetic enhancement. In the stunned silence that followed, Ambassador Chen's voice carried clearly. Actually, on Earth, we have competitions where humans run continuously for over 24 hours. The current ultramarathon record is. The sound of Kethar's secondary command console shattering cut off the rest of his sentence. In the diplomatic box, Sarah grinned at Chen. I think we should probably not mention persistence hunting right now. From the shadowed rear of the observation deck, Fleet Commander Zrix watched the human casually stretching, showing no signs of exhaustion after outlasting the Confederation's finest. His chitinous claw activated a secure channel to High Command. Priority Alpha, he subvocalized. The humans must never reach our colony worlds. They will never stop coming. The emergency alarms echoed through the laboratory as Dr. Silera stared at the holographic display in disbelief. The simulation had run 17 times with the same impossible result. Run it again, she ordered, her scales cycling through colors of scientific frustration. There must be a computational error. Dr. Myrick, her gas bag colleague whose translucent body pulsed with agitated purples and reds, expanded slightly in distress. We verified the parameters multiple times, Chief Scientist. The data is accurate. At the center of the lab, secured in a reinforced containment chamber, James Wilson, a human physical fitness instructor, performed his daily exercise routine. Each repetitive motion of lifting weights was being scanned, analyzed, and modeled down to the cellular level. It defies every established biological principle, Silera whispered, watching the real-time cellular imaging on her display. When human muscle tissue is stressed to the point of microdamage, it rebuilds stronger, finished Dr. Kavlor, the Confederation's most decorated evolutionary biologist. Not just repaired, improved. The laboratory had been converted into a dedicated human biology research center following the endurance demonstration that had sent shockwaves through the Confederation military. What had begun as scientific curiosity was rapidly transforming into existential concern. Observe, Silera instructed, manipulating the holographic display to show microscopic footage of human bone under stress. The human deliberately damaged this bone structure 3 lunar cycles ago with repeated impact stress. The assembled scientists watched as the time-lapse imagery showed the bone healing, not just to its original state, but with increased density precisely at the points of highest stress. In any rational biological system, Kavlor noted, his dorsal spines rigid with scientific indignation, damage accumulates until systemic failure. Healing returns structures to baseline at best. This is adaptive damage response, Silera said, the words sounding like heresy to the assembled cynobiologists. Their biology doesn't just heal damage. It anticipates future damage and preemptively strengthens against it. Inside the chamber, James had finished his bicep curls and moved on to an exercise he called squats, placing a metal bar with weights across his shoulders and repeatedly lowering and raising his body. Look at the metabolic readings, Dr. Myrick gasped, his body turning a shocked ultraviolet. The human systems are releasing endorphins, pleasure chemicals, in response to the stress. Dr. Cavaliers' spines rattled in disbelief. They've evolved to enjoy damage. Not just enjoy it, Celera corrected, zooming the display to the cellular level. They require it. Without regular stress, human biological systems atrophy. Their bones lose density. Their muscles weaken. Their cardiovascular efficiency decreases. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Throughout the galaxy, biological systems evolved toward efficiency and preservation. Damage was avoided at all costs. Healing returned organisms to baseline. The concept of a species that actually required damage to maintain optimal functionality was beyond comprehension. This explains their dietary anomalies as well, Celera continued, bringing up comparative data. Regular exposure to mild toxins like capsaicin and ethanol appears to stimulate their detoxification systems, keeping them primed for response to genuinely harmful substances. In the shadowed upper gallery, Security Director Vrax observed the proceedings through his cybernetic eye, recording every detail for the High Council. His organic eye narrowed as the human completed his exercise routine, showing no signs of distress from what should have been damaging exertion. "Director," his aide whispered, "the preliminary planetary survey results have arrived." Vrax reviewed the data and felt his exoskeleton tighten with primitive fear. Earth was a death world by Confederation standards. Extreme temperature variations, powerful gravitational pull, high oxygen atmosphere promoting combustion, aggressive pathogens, and predatory fauna. "It's not a planet," he subvocalized to his distant superiors. "It's a biological forge." These humans weren't just shaped by evolution. They were hammered on an anvil. Below, James Wilson had finished his routine and was consuming a protein supplement. Dr. Celera was explaining to her astonished colleagues how the human's nutritional intake would be converted directly into enhanced muscle tissue within days. "What happens," asked a junior researcher, "if we introduce a genuinely novel pathogen to human tissue samples, something their biology has never encountered?" The laboratory fell silent as Celera's scales shifted to the deep crimson of scientific revelation. "An excellent question," she replied softly. "One that I believe certain elements within the Confederation may already be asking." The Stargate's warning klaxon cut through the cacophony of voices in the control center. Red emergency lighting bathed the faces of the dozen Confederation engineers who had been working for 3 straight shifts to stabilize the collapsing subspace matrix. "Containment field at 17% and falling," announced the automated system. "Catastrophic failure in 27 minutes. Dr. Celera watched from the observation gallery as the finest minds in the Confederation failed to solve the cascading equations that would prevent the station's power core from imploding. Each alien specialist worked in perfect 6-hour rotations, their biological rhythms precisely maintained for optimal cognitive function. All except one. In the corner of the control room, Maya Patel, a human structural engineer, hunched over her console, surrounded by empty stimulant containers. Her eyes were bloodshot, hands trembling slightly as she manipulated the holographic interface. According to Celera's monitoring equipment, the human hadn't slept in 53 hours. "This is unprecedented," whispered Dr. Ulvor, the Confederation's leading neurophysiologist. "By all established models, her cognitive function should have degraded to uselessness hours ago." Yet the neural scan hovering above their observation station told a different story. While certain regions of Maya's brain showed expected signs of exhaustion, others had become bizarrely hyperactive. New neural pathways were forming in real time, connections that hadn't existed 2 days earlier. "I've never seen anything like it," Ulvor admitted. "It's as if the sleep deprivation is triggering alternative cognitive architectures." Celera's scales shimmered with scientific fascination. "Examine the theta wave activity. Her brain is experiencing microsleep episodes lasting approximately 1.4 seconds, but during each episode, the processing centers are firing at triple their normal capacity." Below, Maya suddenly jerked upright in her chair, eyes wide. "I've got it," she shouted, her voice cracking from caffeine overconsumption. The symmetry isn't linear, it's recursive. The alien engineers turned toward her in confusion as Maya began frantically rearranging the stabilization algorithms. Her hands flew across the interface, dragging equation fragments and recombining them in patterns that violated established subspace mathematics. "Stop her," ordered Chief Engineer Vrek. "She's delirious. Those configurations will accelerate the collapse." But before anyone could intervene, Maya completed her final calculations and slammed her palm down on the execution panel. The room held its collective breath as the system processed her solutions. The warning klaxon stopped abruptly. "Containment field stabilizing," announced the automated system. "Matrix coherence improving. Catastrophic failure averted." Stunned silence fell over the control room, broken only by Maya's slightly manic laughter. "It came to me in a dream," she explained, swaying slightly from exhaustion. "I was swimming with dolphins, and they were dancing in these amazing geometric patterns. Then I realized the dolphins were actually the subspace particles, and they weren't colliding. They were dancing." The alien engineers exchanged concerned glances. From their perspective, the human appeared to be experiencing a psychotic break. Ulvor's monitoring equipment told a different story. "Remarkable," he murmured. During those microsleep episodes, her unconscious mind processed the problem using pattern recognition systems that her conscious mind couldn't access. "Her neural activity suggests she's simultaneously awake and dreaming," Celara added, her scientific excitement evident in the rapid color changes rippling through her scales. The sleep deprivation didn't degrade her cognitive function, it transformed it. In the secure observation deck above, Confederation Intelligence Director Morvac watched with mounting concern. The implications were disturbing. His species, like most in the Confederation, required precise sleep cycles to maintain cognitive function. Sleep disruption was used as a form of torture, inevitably leading to psychosis and death. Yet humans not only survived sleep disruption, they occasionally benefited from it. A species that becomes more unpredictable, more creative, when sleep-deprived, he subvocalized to his security team. Add this to their other biological anomalies, and the pattern becomes clear. "What pattern, Director?" asked his aide. Morvac's compound eyes reflected the image of Maya now slumped unconscious over her console, the exhaustion finally claiming her, but only after she had solved an impossible problem through what any rational species would consider brain damage. "These humans," he whispered, "they're not just unusual. They're weapons." The Confederation Ethics Committee chamber had never been so silent. 7 of the galaxy's most distinguished evolutionary specialists sat motionless as Dr. Celara's presentation reached its most controversial point. "As you can see," she continued, manipulating the massive holographic display dominating the chamber's center, "human reproduction violates fundamental evolutionary principles that govern all other known sentient species." The display shifted to show comparative reproductive cycles across dozens of species. Each showed clear biological indicators of fertility. Hormonal surges, physical transformations, pheromone releases, all precisely timed to maximize reproductive success. Then came the human data, throwing the pattern into chaos. Unlike every documented species, Celara explained, her scales shimmering with scientific excitement, humans exhibit hidden ovulation. They possess no external indicators of fertility whatsoever. "Impossible," interrupted Counselor Vex, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated extreme skepticism. "Reproductive efficiency requires clear signaling. Any species with hidden fertility cycles would quickly become extinct." And yet, Celara countered, humans have populated their entire planet. Their undirected mating behavior allows for pair bonding regardless of fertility status. The implications hung in the air like a miasma. Throughout galactic history, reproduction had been the driving force behind evolution. Efficient, predictable, and clearly signaled to maximize species survival. "There's more," Celara continued, her voice dropping slightly. Human childbirth is extraordinarily dangerous by galactic standards. The infant cranium is barely able to pass through the pelvic opening, requiring the newborn skull to actually deform during the process. Images appeared, causing several committee members to avert their sensory organs in distress. Their evolution prioritized increased cranial capacity over birthing efficiency, Silera explained. A choice no rational species would make. Choice implies design, objected Counselor Zhenpa, her feathered crest rising. Surely you're not suggesting. I suggest nothing, Silera clarified quickly. Merely observing that human reproduction appears to violate natural selection's most basic principles. The chamber doors slid open, admitting Security Director Vrax. Perhaps a practical demonstration would be illuminating, he suggested. We have an opportunity to observe human protective instincts in the station's common area. The committee members followed Vrax to a monitoring room overlooking the station's central hub. Through one-way quantum glass, they could observe humans and various alien species interacting in a casual setting. Watch the human female at the nutrition dispensary, Vrax instructed. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in line, engaged in conversation with a Volturian diplomat. Neither noticed when a young Dravidian child, barely out of its larval stage, lost its balance on a nearby platform. What happened next caused the committee to physically recoil. As the child began to fall, Sarah moved with startling speed, diving across 2 meters of open space to catch the Dravidian before it struck the ground. She cradled the alien child, checking it for injuries before returning it to its horrified parent. Thermal imaging confirms a massive oxytocin and adrenaline surge, Silera noted, reviewing the biometric data. Her neurochemical response was automatic and overwhelming. But the child is not of her species, Counselor Vex objected. Not even remotely genetically compatible. Precisely, Vrax said darkly. Human protective instincts extend to all young, regardless of genetic relation, combined with their continuous mating behavior and lack of fertility signals. The implications needed no explanation. Throughout the galaxy, species protected their direct genetic offspring first and foremost. Resources were never wasted on unrelated young. There's something else you should see, Silera said quietly, directing their attention to another scene unfolding below. The station's artificial gravity briefly fluctuated, causing a ceiling panel to detach. Without hesitation, Ambassador Chen threw himself between the falling debris and a group of mixed-species children, using his body as a shield. The panel struck his back with significant force, causing visible injury. The ambassador shares no genetic material with any of those children, Silera observed as medical drones converged on the scene. Yet he risked potentially fatal injury to protect them. Counselor Zhenpa's feathers trembled. A species that reproduces without observable cycles, forms bonds independent of reproductive capability, and protects all young equally, would expand through the galaxy with unprecedented speed. Vrax finished for her, integrating with other species not through conquest, but through protective cooperation. As they watched the injured human ambassador refusing medical attention until all children were confirmed safe, Silera's scales shifted to the deep blue of scientific realization. Perhaps, he suggested, we've been thinking about evolutionary efficiency all wrong. The emergency containment alarms have been shrieking for 17 minutes. Throughout the station's sealed corridors, atmospheric sensors flashed crimson as the contamination spread. Isolation failure in sectors 7 through 13, announced the automated system. Pathogen concentration increasing. Evacuation protocols initiated. In the central command hub, Confederation Security Director Vrax watched the disaster unfold on holographic displays. What had begun as a minor containment breach in the historical pathogen archive had escalated into a station-wide emergency. Status report, he demanded, his exoskeleton clicking with tension. Chief Medical Officer Talon's crystalline form pulsed with distress patterns. The pathogen is a weaponized Thoraxian plague strain from the Third Galactic Conflict. It was supposed to be permanently neutralized. Supposed to be, Vrax echoed grimly. The implications were catastrophic. The Karaxian plague had been engineered to adapt to any biological defense. It had decimated 17 worlds before a countermeasure was developed. Even in its dormant state, it remained one of the most dangerous biological agents in known space. Estimated casualties. Vrax asked quietly. Tilan's crystal structure dimmed momentarily, the equivalent of closing one's eyes before delivering terrible news. The pathogen affects 93% of known sentient physiologies. At current spread rates, we expect 87% mortality among exposed individuals. Silence fell over the command hub, broken only by the persistent alarms and the rhythmic clicking of Vrax's exoskeleton. "Sir," interrupted a junior officer, "the human delegation is requesting access to the contamination zone." All heads turned. On the communication display, Ambassador Chen stood alongside Dr. Sarah Chen and 3 other humans in standard environmental suits. "Request denied." Vrax responded immediately. "The containment failure affects critical areas. No diplomatic personnel are authorized." "You misunderstand," Ambassador Chen interrupted. "We're not asking as diplomats. We're offering as medical volunteers." Tilan's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "The Karaxian pathogen is universally toxic. No species can." "We've reviewed the pathogen structure," Dr. Sarah Chen interjected, displaying a molecular model on her datapad. "It appears similar to several retroviruses from Earth. Our immune systems can process it without significant effects." Stunned silence fell over the command hub. "Impossible," Tilan whispered, light patterns rippling through her crystalline form. "The Karaxian plague was engineered specifically for cross-species lethality." "Run the simulations," Vrax ordered. The medical eye complied immediately, displaying a projected interaction between the pathogen and human biology. The results defied comprehension. "It appears," Tilan said slowly, "that human immune systems can recognize the pathogen but don't trigger a cytokine storm response. They would experience mild symptoms at most. We call it a common cold reaction," Sarah explained. "Unpleasant, but not dangerous." Vrax's compound eyes narrowed with suspicion. "And you're volunteering to enter contaminated zones because we can help," Ambassador Chen stated simply. "Your medical teams can't enter without risking infection. We can transport supplies, assist patients, and maintain critical systems until your containment protocols take effect." The logic was irrefutable. Within minutes, the human volunteers were being briefed on emergency procedures, while Xilara and Tilan monitored their biological responses. "Their cellular structures are already adapting to the pathogen exposure," Xilara observed, her scales flickering with scientific awe. "Antibody production is accelerating at rates I've never documented before." Tilan's crystalline form pulsed with troubled light patterns. A biological defense system that adapts to unknown pathogens in real time shouldn't be possible. The energy requirements alone would be prohibitive for any rational biology, Xilara completed. And yet, the monitoring screens showed the humans moving efficiently through contaminated areas, their vital signs stable despite exposure levels that would be fatal to any Confederation species. Dr. Helena Wong, a human virologist, removed her helmet in a sealed laboratory section. "What is she doing?" Vrax demanded, his exoskeleton creaking with alarm. "I need direct exposure to study the airborne transmission characteristics," Helena explained calmly through the communication system. "My immune system can handle it." On the microscopic visualization screens, everyone watched as the pathogen invaded Helena's respiratory system, and her immune response immediately mobilized in ways that defied conventional biology. "Their immune system doesn't just react to threats," Xilara whispered. "It learns from them. Each exposure makes them stronger against not just this pathogen, but similar ones they've never encountered." From the communications array, Helena's voice carried a realization that sent shivers through the command hub. "This is why we survived Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every day, and instead of evolving perfect defenses against specific threats, we developed imperfect but adaptable responses to all of them. In the shadowed corner of the command hub, an intelligence operative recorded everything, preparing a report for the High Council that would forever change the Confederation's understanding of biological warfare. And the strange, impossible humans who treated deadly pathogens as minor inconveniences. The Grand Confederation Council chamber fell silent as Dr. Xylera took her position at the central podium. 3,000 representatives from across the galaxy, their diverse physiologies accommodated by specialized environmental fields, watched as her scales shifted to the formal indigo of scientific presentation. Behind her, a massive holographic display illuminated the chamber with images of Earth and its inhabitants. After weeks of escalating reports about human biological anomalies, the High Council had convened this extraordinary session to determine humanity's status within galactic society. Security Director Vrax and his contingent occupied the high-security section, their postures rigid with tension. Following the pathogen incident, pressure had mounted to classify humans as a potential biological threat. Esteemed representatives, Xylera began, her translator projecting her voice throughout the chamber. I stand before you to present my comprehensive analysis of human biology and its implications for the Confederation. The display shifted to show comparative evolutionary trees, elegant, efficient branches for Confederation species contrasting with humanity's chaotic, tangled path. For 7 standard cycles, my team has documented human biological functions that violate our understanding of evolution. Their immune systems adapt to unknown pathogens. Their bodies strengthen in response to damage. Their cognitive functions occasionally improve through sleep deprivation. Their reproductive behavior defies efficiency models. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many representatives had reviewed the preliminary findings, but seeing the complete picture displayed so starkly was disturbing. We initially assumed these anomalies represented biological defects. Xylera continued. We were wrong. The display transformed, showing the evolutionary history of various Confederation homeworlds. Each depicted stable environments with predictable challenges, which had produced specialized, efficient species. Then came Earth. Humans evolved on a death world. Xylera stated bluntly. Extreme temperature variations. Atmospheric oxygen levels promoting combustion. Constantly shifting continental plates. Irregular orbital patterns causing climate instability. Aggressive pathogens and predators. The chamber erupted with uneasy murmuring as representatives contemplated a planet seemingly designed to kill its inhabitants. The fundamental error in our analysis, Xylera's voice cut through the noise, was assuming that biological efficiency represents the pinnacle of evolutionary success. The display shifted again, showing the failed Confederation mission to colonize the planet Draxus IV. Despite years of preparation, the supposedly perfect colony had collapsed when an unexpected solar flare altered the planet's magnetic field. When environments remain stable, specialization thrives, Xylera explained. But when environments change unpredictably, adaptability becomes paramount. Finished Ambassador Chen, who had been invited to join the presentation. He stepped forward, standing beside Xylera. Humans aren't biologically efficient because we couldn't afford to be. Our planet never gave us that luxury. Security Director Vrax's appendage tapped a coded message to his officers. The human's presence at such a crucial security briefing concerned him deeply. Consider the evidence, Xylera continued. Human omnivorous digestion allows them to survive on whatever food sources are available. Their temperature regulation through sweating permits function in vastly different environments. Their seemingly inefficient immune system adapts to novel threats rather than perfecting responses to known ones. The display showed human settlements spanning Earth's diverse environments, from Arctic regions to deserts, mountains to oceanic platforms. Even their bizarre reproductive biology serves adaptability, Xylera explained. Hidden ovulation and pair bonding independent of fertility created complex social structures that compensated for their physical vulnerabilities. The council chair, a Volturian whose wings vibrated with barely contained anxiety, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we reclassify humans as a non-threat?" "I am suggesting," Silara replied, her scales shifting to the rare gold of scientific revelation, "that we redefine our understanding of biological intelligence." The chamber darkened as the final simulation appeared, a projection of galactic environmental changes over the next 1,000 years. Climate shifts, stellar anomalies, resource depletion. The Confederation has achieved remarkable stability, Ambassador Chen observed quietly. But the galaxy itself remains unpredictable. The implication hung in the air like a physical presence. The specialized biological systems that had served Confederation species so well during peaceful expansion might become liabilities in an unpredictable future. "Humanity doesn't request special consideration," Chen continued. "We offer partnership, your precision and our adaptability, working together." For several moments, the chamber remained silent. Then, slowly, the council chair rose. "We have long defined intelligence as the ability to perfectly optimize for known conditions," the chair acknowledged. "Perhaps it is time to recognize that preparing for the unknown requires a different kind of intelligence altogether." As the formal vote began, a process that would determine humanity's place in galactic society, Dr. Xilara's scales shifted to a color she had never displayed before, a shimmering gold intermingled with earth sky blue. In the privacy of her laboratory later that evening, she reviewed one final piece of data that she had chosen not to share with the Council. Evidence suggesting human DNA contained markers of ongoing evolution at rates unprecedented in any documented species. Whatever humanity was now, Silara realized with a mixture of scientific excitement and trepidation, they were still becoming.